So I remember Panto, and I remember going, and obviously, like every child in Morecambe, you had a school play or a school show at the Winter Gardens, and I was actually a very naughty girl and threw my shoes, ballet shoes, at the teacher and was never allowed back on the stage.
The first time I went into the theatre, which was probably a Sunday afternoon for a dress rehearsal, my eyes were opened. I was aghast. Have you heard of the roar of the grease paint and the smell of the crowd? Well, it was like that for me.
My mother, I remember her telling me tales of when she was younger, must have come with her grandfather. And I remember there was elephants on the stage, and they used to practice stepping over her. And I remember talking about the elephants they used to take down into the sea. I think it's maybe I'd be on Green Street, and they used to take them into the water to bath them down there.
This building was a building I used to come to with my mum when I was a little boy, sit in the front row, all these people dashing backwards and forwards, and it's just awesome. And of course you look beyond the scenery, but in your mind, your imagination takes over. And I just fell in love with it. I love theatre altogether.
The Winter Gardens in Morecambe is more than just a building. It leaves a mark on you, in your heart, as well as your memories. I know, I've been part of it for decades. For me, it's the history, the camaraderie, the fun, as well as what the future holds. We're nearing the end of this podcast journey into all the lives of the Winter Gardens, past, present and future. So we thought it only right to end for now with some personal memories of the People's Palace and a look ahead to what's coming next. For Vanessa, the chair of our Preservation Trust, her link goes back to childhood, and some of her recollections may surprise you.
Our family fairground was the O'Connors. My grandmother was known as the Queen of the Winter Gardens. So it was a fantastic playground as a child. So you went on everything, you were with your family. It was right behind the back of the Winter Gardens. And the original Winter Gardens fairground was on the promenade. So we've always had this long relationship with the fairground and the Winter Gardens. It was known as the Winter Gardens Fairground. And my nana had a clown stall. She had all these things that everyone remembers. And we've got photographs here in the theatre. And you used to see the dancers or the acts coming out to have a cigarette. And we used to sneak in at intervals. So I remember Panto, and I remember going, and obviously, like every child in Morecambe, you had a school play or a school show at the Winter Gardens, and I was actually a very naughty girl and threw my shoes, ballet shoes, at the teacher and was never allowed back on the stage. Because to me, it was just like on the fairground. It literally backed onto the fairground. It was known as the Winter Gardens Theatre, and it was the Winter Gardens Fairground, so I thought it was one and the same. I didn't really think there was a separation. And now as a historian, I realised there wasn't a separation because the Winter Gardens Fairground was owned by the theatre. And I was looking, when I've been doing the history, I found this wonderful account from the 1950s of the Winter Gardens manager reminiscing about the very rough Irishman who was on the fairground, which must have been my granddad. It's really funny. I found a contract for the fairground from 1951, and that would have been with my family. So that was kind of quite emotional when I saw that. I'm thinking, oh, that's what my granddad would have signed this.
Family. It's the word that keeps coming up. And many families recall watching members take part in one of the dance festivals held at the Winter Gardens. Who can forget that anticipation, the nerves, and the relief when it's all over? For volunteer Dawn Stobbold, her memories are vivid.
I performed on stage. I've performed only with the dance festivals and things through the schools and stuff. We used to come and do the dance festivals on stage.
Wow.
So I remember doing those and coming and taking part in those. Justin's been in shows from primary school and stuff when you came and so on. So we have been, when it was before all the damage and everything else was done to it. And even then it was, when you were much smaller then and you come in and it's just, wow, it's an incredible building, and it was brilliant to dance on stage in front of loads of people, and yeah. The atmosphere is brilliant.
It's nerve-wracking though, especially
Oh,
as a...
yeah, when we were little it was. Yeah, all stood there in our little blue leotards and so on. But it was brilliant. It's amazing.
I was reading that book about the Morecambe Music Festival. I didn't realise how big a thing it was. The dance festival as well was huge.
Yeah.
Talking certainly regional, if not national. It was a mega thing to be involved in.
To be involved in and stuff. And I think we did one year we won a cup, but yeah, it was really good. Yeah.
Can I ask how old you were? What age you were?
I was probably only about 13, 14. So yeah,
Hey.
a long time ago.
But you still remember it?
I still remember it. Yeah. Oh yeah, it was brilliant. I loved it. I think we all did. It was always a hype in school, to be actually part of the dance festivals. It was brilliant.
To be part of a production or compete in a dance festival is a big thing. Justin, Dawn's husband, was only 10 years old when he took to the stage.
No, never get tired of this place. No, I did. Like Dawn said, with the dancing, if Lorraine was here, another volunteer, I was with Lorraine on stage. All the primary schools of the area used to do a festival. We both went to a primary school. Yeah, we were on stage together at 10 years old. And I can still remember having my makeup put on in the top dressing room by the teacher. And then it was onto stage. And I can still remember seeing my mum and dad's faces in the audience. And my knees nearly gave way. You know what I mean? You don't lose that sort of thing. You can't wipe that history out. And I would never want to. Let's get the place back up and running as it was. And those memories back then, absolutely fantastic. I couldn't lose them. And that's why I do what I do now with this place.
Whether a festival or a big name star, watching a live performance surrounded by hundreds of others in a grand setting leaves an indelible mark on the memory. One of this country's legendary character comics came to Morecambe in the 70s. Malcolm O'Neill, who led our restoration and maintenance team for many years, offers his insight into what it was like to watch a parade of the nation's best known live acts perform.
I'm very fortunate. In the 70s, I brought my mother and father and my girlfriend at the time. We sat in the gods and watched Billy Connolly in concert. Just tremendous. There's this fellow called Clinton Ford, and he used to have a television programme, and they were all dressed in straw hats and beautiful attire. Crazy, hazy, lazy days of summer. Huey Green would do a show here. Derek Beatty would do Mr. and Mrs. And the Rolling Stones appeared here. The Who appeared here. Everybody that you could think of would have at some times, not the Beatles, but anybody who was a name at the time. Frankie Vaughan was a huge name and he would have appeared here. Make no bones about it. Eric Morecambe, Morecambe's famous son, and I just think everybody that I know never has a bad word about Eric Morecambe, and it's something to be so proud of. And Thora Hurd was another Morecambe lass who appeared here. In fact, she met her husband, Scotty, used to play in the orchestra pit in the Winter Gardens, and she used to sit on the front row and catch his eye. Absolutely fantastic. People used to say to me, "You won't have a poetry festival in Morecambe. They're not interested in poetry." Well, believe me, they are. And we've had John Cooper Clarke here. We've had John Hegley. We've had Roger McGough. And last year we had Carol Ann Duffy. We've also had beer festivals here, which are wonderful. There used to be a chap from Wigan called George Formby, and George Formby was a huge star. And they now have an appreciation society. They came to Morecambe. There must have been 60 people on that stage playing the ukulele.
Malcolm's memories. And he's right. As I said at the start, the camaraderie of the volunteers and our staff rubs off on visitors. Even when we don't have an event, people like to look around, learn what we're doing, and maybe add to the story of the Winter Gardens. And everyone that comes in they love the Winter Gardens. People will tell you about the Winter Gardens when they came here. We've got T-shirts, and one of them is an official copy of the Who when they were here. The number of people that buy that because they actually saw that show. Lots of those people had been here and seen shows here when it was open. So it's nice for them. And they've been coming in. We've got people now coming in that have been coming in every weekend. And they like to see what we've done each weekend.
And that's good because people see a difference and they go away and tell their friends and family that things are happening here, and that's how you spread the word.
Yeah, and everybody that comes in, they come from all over, but when people that come in to look at it, they're amazed. It's a beautiful building. Beautiful building. It was built to last, this building. And if you decide to come and see us this year, and we hope you do, one man who you'll doubtless hear performing the kind of music which just lifts the spirits is our organist, Peter Jetson. He spends more time than most on the stage, literally in the footsteps of Billy, Eric, Thora, and many, many more.
Yeah, it's incredible. As I say, how lucky am I to be able to sit on that stage? And at first, you go on that stage and you look out into the auditorium and it's quite frightening and daunting. It's a massive, massive void. And when you think in the heyday, when that was absolutely cram-packed full of people, was it 2,000-3,000 it could hold? All those people and bodies in there, and there's just you on the stage. At first, it's quite intimidating. But I've been playing the organ now for about 5 years at weekends, and I've got used to that now. It's not as intimidating, and the acoustics are superb. It brings back many happy memories for people, about the grandparents playing musical instruments, and it evokes a lot of memories. But as I say, people are just so nice and so generous, and they all want to talk to you, and I'm happy to talk to them and welcome them into the Winter Gardens, because in a way, I'm a bit of a front man, and I like to just, represent the Winter Gardens.
Peter is a pro. He's a consummate professional. But even he had nerves when a special show came to town.
Any Questions Radio 4 came to the Winter Gardens and hosted the show, Alex Forsyth, and that went out live. I played for all the customers that were coming in for an hour. Quite nerve-wracking. And then one of the producers of the show said to me, well, Pete, after the show, or before the show finished, can you play us out live? And I said, hesitantly, yes, of course. I'm thinking, my goodness, out live,
National radio,
yeah.
What could go wrong?
I'll have to play on the notes instead of the cracks, I'll have to be careful here. So I thought, well, I'll play them out with I Do Like to Be Beside the Seaside. Anyhow, the show went on, and it got to about the last 5 minutes, and the producer came. He said, oh, sorry, Peter, we've run out of time, but so we sadly can't do that. But what she did say, she said, I videoed you playing earlier on, and my grandma likes the organ, and I sent the video to her, and it made her cry. I said, oh, it wasn't that bad, was it?
Coming up, you'll hear how the Winter Gardens will be on the performance circuit for contemporary bands and entertainers very soon. We've already made a start. Historian and volunteer Peter Wade recalls the performances involving orchestras, singers, and even members of Manchester's legendary music scene.
I do remember various episodes. In particular, we had an event a couple of years ago, and it was a mix of orchestral concert with music by Daft Punk, and we had some of the MCs who'd worked at the Hacienda, and I arrived at the interval, as it were, between the two, and a man came up to me, obviously a bit worse the wear for drink and who knows what else, and was almost in tears, thanking me personally for the show so far, which of course I'd had absolutely nothing to do with at all, and I'd only just arrived. But anyway, there we are. That was a very positive reaction from somebody of a much younger generation than myself.
And there's a real demand for a big live music venue in this part of the world. Just ask Karen and Paul, Volunteers who have seen the King at the Winter Gardens, but loved the Levellers when they performed here, and the first major gig at the Gardens in 2021.
So many happy memories of the Winter Gardens, really, coming as a childhood.
We're both born in Morecambe and raised in Morecambe. We lived here all our life, so this has been a big part, huge part of our lives, really. Yeah, we've always wandered down to see what's on at the Winter Gardens and encouraged it and promoted it and supported it. So it's played a fundamental part, hasn't it, in our lives.
Has, yeah.
Like, my highlight was meeting the King, because King Charles came here. He selected this building out of sort of thousands nationally. He's a big theatre lover, he's a big historian, he loves architecture. And on our 125th birthday, he came here, and had a guided tour around the building. So that was probably my biggest highlight. But another huge highlight for me is that about 18 months ago, we had a pop group called the Levellers. So that was have you heard of the Levellers? That was our first big test, yeah? So we had a sellout crowd, there was 1,000 people. It was really noisy and loud. And I sat up there, there was 2 or 3 of us sat on the first floor as guards, and I had a silent cry, because I thought, wow. And it was humming, it was busy, and I thought
The building was buzzing, wasn't it? It was exciting.
That's what I really love Winter Gardens to be. A superb musical.
Because the music venue, wasn't it? Really exciting.
And I thought that's the first time in about 40 years it had come to life.
And it certainly has. Bringing a Grade 2 star building back to life, meeting all the health and safety demands of the 21st century, has taken time and effort. You can't push projects like this or rush them, and it isn't cheap. But careful management means the foundations of a long-term, sustainable future have been set. Chair of our Preservation Trust, Vanessa Toulmin, offers an insight into the job of restoring a Victorian-era theatre for a new life in the 21st century.
Everybody knows that everything we raise in this building goes back into the building. So you can see all around you. I mean, you've been coming for a couple of years now and interviewing me. You can see the difference. You can see, at the moment we're having new windows put in, and they've got to be purpose built and purpose made and installed. And we've got 3 lovely lads doing it, and they've fallen in love with the theatre. We've got an artist from Baylight who's going to be putting an installation in and trying to work out our raked floor, which I did tell him. So, and then obviously we're going to have the capital work starting. We had the floor done last year. We hope to get the stained glass windows done. So it's piece by piece, and people can see the difference. Here's the lovely Simon who's doing my windows. Have you got good news to tell me, Simon? I'm being interviewed here. You want to be on the radio?
Well, good news is we're pressing on okay, yeah?
Right.
Everything
Has the
seems
glass
to-
appeared?
It hasn't, but it's not like we stood about waiting for it. We could do with it, but unfortunately it's not arrived again. So I think the wagon's come from Germany and it's the company's wagon. Well, hopefully it'll be here today or tomorrow. As long as it comes this week, it'll be great.
Yeah, very, very good, because it's freezing in here.
Or definitely before the end of next week.
Okay, thanks, Simon. People have memories about it, they want to come back. I mean, we get lots of different age groups of people. I think the biggest transition is transitioning from a heritage venue, which is really at the moment an events venue, to a music venue. So that's what we'll be doing over the next 12, 14 months, programming new acts, new events, different shows, and, you know, it'll get people used to coming and seeing events. So, yeah, you know, it's only halfway through. We're doing it in stages, so the auditorium's safe, then it'll be the circle. We've put heating in, we've put new lights, we've put a sound and light system. We're training up the next generation of techies for Morecambe. They're doing a course with us, getting new windows. There's only so much I can do. I do work full time.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, you are the figurehead. There's a team behind you, but a lot of them are volunteers. So trying to make that work
We're 45
is a challenge, isn't it?
volunteers. We've got 45 volunteers and 7 trustees who are all volunteers. And for the project, we have staff who are paid through the project, through the government funding. So that's DCMS Arts Council. And obviously we're the only voluntary group in the country that's ever had this specific grant. So it's kind of, you know, we've got to work. And through that project, we've got a team of architects, engineers, project staff, but they are running the project. The actual building is the volunteers. The actual fundraising, the actual money is the volunteers and the trustees. Jihan is our trustee who's a treasurer. He's the one who does the finances. Steve is our trustee. He's a QS and building person. He's the one who checks all. Richard's an electrical engineer. Paul is a lawyer. Michael is a school teacher, so he runs the volunteer side with the volunteer coordinator paid for the project. So yes, it is true, we now have paid staff, but they are project staff. They're not the trustee and the building, which is great, but we all muck in together.
During this series, I hope you've got a sense of why the Winter Gardens matters. It's not just a historic building on a seafront site. It's something that has seen people from all walks of life rally to a common cause. It's brought people together, allowed those whose skills are no longer in daily demand find a new outlet to share and pass them on. It's prompted young people who may well have moved away to consider the coast as a place to make their home. And it's doing something that's hard to measure, but it's utterly vital. Giving people hope and an opportunity to create something that will make life better in Morecambe, the wider region, and even nationally.
I've met quite a few of the volunteers during the course of making this podcast series for the Winter Gardens, and you don't have to dig very deep to find out why they want to get involved. It's because they love the place, but also they have this vision, I think, of the future. They want more people to love it, to learn how to love it. Do you think this is part of, obviously, almost like a side benefit, is that it's not not creating jobs, but you're certainly giving people purpose and something to do, of all ages?
Well, I think there's some mental well-being aspects of being in the Winter Gardens. It is one big family, and obviously that was part of the reason we won the King's Award. But I also think it was a reality that anyone who's from Morecambe wants Morecambe to have a future and a strong, viable, commercially successful Winter Gardens is part of that future. It's a very big chunk of real estate to be closed on the promenade. It's obviously going to be open opposite up at the New Eden. They want it to work because it's part of the same offer. But I also want it to be an opportunity for young people to have an arts and creative industries future for themselves in Morecambe and not have to leave like I had to or like my niece had to. So there's a lot of talent. So part of the reason we did this course with the Association of British Theatre Technicians this week, so that we could train young people. So we've got people from the age of 16 to 40 on it, because we always need technicians. After COVID, about a third of the technical workforce left the creative industries. The people, all the freelancers who were treated really badly during the lockdown because they didn't get the money, and theatres weren't employing them, the artists weren't employing them, the festivals weren't employing them. They just left. And so why would you blame them?
You've got to earn money, haven't you?
And they've got, well, they had nothing else. They didn't get any support. So, I feel very strongly about that because we did a big scheme in Sheffield that got some support for people. It's really, really important that we have the people who are just backstage, the people who do the rest of the work, the people who do the technicians, the people who do the stage, people who do the marketing, people who do the promotion. It's not the show that brings the dough, it's the flash that brings the cash. And without the flash, you haven't got a show.
Well, from what you say, again, this next 12 months, 18 months, we were talking in this podcast series as we look back at the history, look at the names who've appeared. The venue itself has changed, massively the time we've recorded this podcast, certainly in the last year or so. I'm just wondering, you're aiming to be a 1,600 seats facility. If you were to sort of look at, the people who are out there touring at the moment, what kind of names and could come to Morecambe, do you think, in the future?
Well, what I would like and what I could get are two different matters, but we've definitely been spending a lot of time, and we will reevaluate, revisit that conversation. We had discussion with the Halley Orchestra, because the Halley Orchestra used to be here, so we want to bring them back. Right. So we're definitely talking to the Halley. We're working with From the Field, who do Kendall Calling, to bring us bands. So I keep on sending Andy a wish list. So it depends on who we're looking at. We've been talking to quite a lot of comedians. And now we've got Terry, our events person, through the project. We're doing a lot of bookings. So next month, we've got Tom Hingley from the Inspiral Carpets. We've got Terry Christian. We've got 2 choirs. People, why are you having choirs? Because this Winter Gardens was built for choirs. So we've got two male voice choirs coming, one of them fundraising for us. So it's wonderful. We're going to film shows again. We're going to show The Entertainer. We're showing Brief Encounter because it's its anniversary this year. And we're doing that with Carnforth Trust. And we're also doing new festivals, and we're obviously doing the successful Morecambe Bay Poetry Festival again with Matt Panache, which was on Radio 4, 2 programmes last year. So it's a creative hub, but with music at the fore.
And for what you say, collaborating with people around here as well.
Oh yeah, it's for producers. We're not going to program everything. We want other people to program and to produce. I mean, I've only stepped into programming this year, which I'm doing a Halloween weekend, and I've done many of those. So we've got some fantastic things coming for that Halloween weekend. So we're going to do films, interactive, children's things, and then we've got some really fantastic films. I'm very keen that Morecambe young people have a future in their own town. I'm very keen that this theatre is viable and commercially sound and operates for another 100 years. And I'm just very proud to have the opportunity, privileged to have an opportunity to play a part in the regeneration and renaissance and future recovery of the Winter Gardens. So I see it as a privilege.
So keep an eye on Morecambe's Winter Gardens so you can be first to see this venue once again become the People's Palace. I'm Jan Downey. I've had a fabulous time bringing together these memories and along with a smashing team of people recording this podcast. We do hope you've enjoyed it as much as we did. Thanks for listening. Be sure to share, leave us a review and rate us. And come to see the Winter Gardens soon, our People's Palace.